let's jump into Luka's legacy now. He's searching for his first championship. Presumably, he's going to win Finals MVP if he gets to that point. But let's talk about if he. Let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit. If he wins this championship, where would you put him as far as all-time great players? We talked about Jokic and what Jokic has done over the last couple of years with the MVPs. Luka hasn't won one yet, but Jokic is a three-time, three MVPs in 4 years. We've bought him in the top 20. Where would a championship solidify Luka? Where would that put him?
Yeah, I didn't update my list because I don't do it during the season. To me, there's really no
Mhm.
point to. You just wait for the off season. I try
Yeah,
and only do it once a year, because it changes obviously so much throughout the playoffs and throughout the regular season. So I didn't put an actual list together, but as
mhm.
far as this era, if Luka wins it all, he's all of a sudden goes from that second tier to just alongside Jokic and Giannis. Those guys have been the two best players of this era. They both have one championship, both have multi MVPs. Obviously, Jokic won his third, Giannis has two. That's something that Luka hasn't done quite yet, but he's been right there. He's one of the three best players in the world. And if he wins the championship, to me, he jumps to that level. And the fact that he's younger than both of them at only 25 years old, all of a sudden we're talking about if we look forward, 10, 15 years, is he going to have the best career of those three? And I think right now it's
Mhm.
hard to put him on that level, but in a few weeks we might have to do so because I think one championship changes it.
I agree. I think when it comes to these lists, and I've updated my list from the perspective of the last time we made a list, it was updated then because the top 10 doesn't change unless we get an all-time great player, transformational player that comes into this league, Wemby, potentially, who knows? Um, the top 10 doesn't change, but it does shift. I think players shift within that top 10. So let me read you. I have 16 players on this list. And then I have a group that's under those 16 players. I want to first read you that top 10 that I have that I think is solidified. Again, there could be shifts in movement within that list, but I don't think we're adding new players in that list. I think this list is the top 10 people that's in it, they're going to always be in it. They're just going to move. They're going to shift. Maybe you got LeBron at one instead of three. Maybe you got MJ at two instead of one. They're on that list, but they don't move out of the top 10. So I have MJ one, Kareem two, LeBron three. That has been my solidified top three since we've started this podcast. It hasn't changed. Um, we had problems with that initially. Tunde, he believed that LeBron's number one. Okay, we're not getting into that. But those have been my three the last 3 or 4 years that we've done this. I have Magic four, I have Kobe five, I have Bird six, I have Steph seven. He's moved from 10 to seven with the last championship. I have Duncan eight, Shaq nine, and Wilt 10. Obviously, 6 through 10, you can have a Fields day with, in my opinion. Honestly, 5 through 10, you can have a Fields day with. Magic, Kareem, LeBron, Magic. I mean, Michael Jordan, Kareem, LeBron, Magic. I believe that's solidified top four. However you put it. I think when it comes down to it, when you get to Kobe, you start mentioning Bird, Steph, Duncan, Shaq, Wilt. Put those five gentlemen, six gentlemen in any order, and I will be okay. I feel like you can maneuver those guys in any way. My next set, and this is where it might get a little dicey. I have Hakeem 11, Jokic 12. I have Russell 13. I have Durant 14. I have Oscar 15. I have Kevin Garnett 16. Below that, I have Dirk, Barkley, Moses, Giannis, and Luka. I think Luka is in that category with those gentlemen.
So you already have Luka as the 20th best player ever?
16. No, no, I stopped at 16. I stopped at 16. My list stopped at 16. The reason it stopped is because I did the last list, I lumped them all together. So I don't even know who's number 17. Like I don't know. Dirk, Barkley, Moses, Giannis, Luca. You can make a legit argument if he won a title that you could put him at number 17. I don't know where to go
I
from
don't know.
there. I just know the top 16 for me is solidified. Like the 16 that I named are definitive. I don't you can go so many different ways, You could do Dirk. I mean, if Luka wins the title, isn't he the greatest math ever?
I think it's still up for debate. I mean, Dirk has an MVP.
Come on.
I
To
think
me,
I think he will be.
Luka's already better than to me, Luka's already better than Dirk.
I think he's a better player, but has he had a better career?
Not yet, not yet. No, I won't say that because he hasn't done it long enough. He hasn't been here. He hasn't been in NBA long enough. So
I think when it's all said
longevity,
and done, I think you're right. He will be, but I can't put him that high right now.
no, I know. I'm not saying he's over Dirk now. I'm saying legit argument. If he wins, you can start making that conversation. You can start talking about that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know necessarily I lumped him in that group. Not saying that he's 17, but I lumped him in that group with those individuals because it's so hard now. It's so hard to tell each of them apart. Like if Luka wins another title, what can you really say is different between him and Giannis? Like you could say Giannis defensive end overall. You could say Luka better offensive player. Like there's so many ways you can go with it. That's why I lumped him in that group. I'm not saying he's right there, but I'm saying I think that's the category of players, the conversation now he belongs in. That's that second tier you were talking about. Like, no, that's that third tier actually. That first tier, and then that second tier, that 11 through 16, and then that third tier of players. I don't know where to put him, and that's why I got him lumped into that category.
Yeah, I mean, I see your argument. It's hard for me to put him that high already. Even, this is his
Mhm.
first finals appearance. He only made one other Western Conference Finals, no MVPs yet. He's on a historic
Mhm.
pace. I mean, we're talking 6 years into his career, and he has five first team All NBA. We've only seen that one other time. So he is on a historic pace. But it's hard for me to put him over some other guys. Like Isaiah Thomas, like we mentioned earlier in the point guard. This is a guy that had an extremely long and great career where he was one of the best players in the league.
He could be lumped into that group too.
Yeah,
I didn't name everybody in that group. I stopped because like I could have kept going.
Mhm.
And so I'm saying Luka, I'm not saying he's better than any of these players that I named. I'm saying he's in that seat. He's in that room with them. He's in the room with Isaiah. He's in a room with Dirk. He's in a room with Barkley, Moses, Giannis. He's in that room. I'm not saying he's better than them. He's in that room. Just like we go into the top 10. Wilt is in the room, but Steph is better than Wilt, in my opinion. Wilt is in the room, but obviously Kobe, LeBron, Kareem, they're better than him. So you could be in that room, but still not be a better player than the prospective individuals that's in that room with you.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I would say, in my opinion, Luka's not in that room yet. He's on the way to being there, but only being 6 years into his career, I can't put him there yet. I think when it's all
Really?
said and done, yeah, I mean, if we're looking ahead and saying where do you think Luka is going to finish up, I think he might finish as a top 10 to 15 player of all time. He's that good, and we
Mm-hmm.
see him do things that we haven't seen more than just a few players do. I mean, just during this playoff run. He's one of four players to score 450 points, 150 assists, 150 rebounds. We've only seen Larry Bird do that, I believe, in 1987. Jokic do it last year, and then LeBron has done it like six times. But beyond those three guys, this is the first time somebody else has done it, and Luka's doing that at 25, 26 years old. So I think when it's all said and done, he's gonna be there. But it's hard for me to put him up there yet when he hasn't even won a championship.
Let me play devil's advocate because this is all assuming that he wins a title. These two lists are assuming that Luka and Kyrie both capture another NBA championship. What's your argument that he's not ahead of Barkley? Barkley doesn't have any rings. Barkley is one of the all-time great players. How can you make a or how can he not be in that room with Barkley if he has a championship?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying is I wouldn't put him in that room yet until he wins the championship. So let's say,
So no, assuming that he wins it. We're assuming that he
okay,
wins the championship.
assuming he wins, I'll say he's in that room with them. But
Okay.
I don't know if I put him ahead of those guys when they did it for 10, 15 years, other guys doing it for 20 years, and Luka's only going into year seven next year. And a lot of these guys that we've named are multi-time MVPs and Luka hasn't won one. And I'm not saying MVP is, the end all be all, but that is something that is going to be a tiebreaker when we compare him to other guys in his era. And Giannis and Jokic have combined five, and Luka hasn't won one yet. So I think it puts him in that same room as those guys. But it's hard for me to talk about him being top 15 or top 20 of all time when we're so early in his career. I mean, I'm right there
I,
with you that. Go ahead.
I don't think he's there yet. I think with another championship, I mean, with the championship, he's approaching it. Um,
I'm
this
not
list
mad
is
at
not,
that. Yeah, I get
yeah,
that.
yeah. This list is not to say that this list is not to say he's better than these individuals that I named.
Yeah.
It is essentially saying that he's in that room, and that's different than saying they're better. Because you could be in a room with someone, but again, you're not better than them. So I believe he joins that room if he wins a championship. He becomes in that tier three of all time great players. Now, is he 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 25? It's going to be hard to say he's not a top 25 player if he wins the ring. Like, that's me, top 25, top 30. It's going to be hard to keep him out of that top 30 if he wins a championship. Because now we're stretching the league thin and we're saying, okay, name me 15 players better than Luka. Because I can guarantee you only 16 right now. And so it's going to be hard for me to name another 14 players. So he's not in that category yet. He's not in that room yet. But does he have an opportunity? Boy, he has an opportunity to get there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If we look ahead, if we're forecasting to the end of
Mhm.
his career, I think he will be in that conversation. And even though it is hard to say it right now, even with assuming that he does win one championship, I agree with you that he would start to be approaching guys like that. And if we're looking ahead another 10 or 15 years, he might surpass all of them.
That's true. It's going to be hard to crack that top 10. It's, I think, for any,
It is, but somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to do it at some point, though.
yeah, it's going to be hard to. I mean, the only man I mean, it's really disrespectful to say Wilt not top 10, but he will be the only person that feasibly will have to get out of that top 10. It's hard. It's really hard.
You're right, it is hard, but when Bill Russell retired, he was unquestionably one of the top 2 or 3 guys ever, and now I don't even think you had him in your top 10, right?
No, he's number 13.
So guys get bumped, especially when we're talking about looking, a decade ahead, and I don't know if it's gonna be Luka, I don't know if it's gonna be Jokic or Giannis, we don't know yet, but somebody from this era is gonna approach that. We saw 2 guys from this past era with LeBron and Curry move into the top 10. We saw somebody like Kobe and Tim Duncan and Shaq from that era before that move into the top 10. So every decade, or let's say every
There's
generation, we get
at least
yeah, probably 1 to 2 guys that start to, kinda creep in there, and somebody's gonna have to get bumped out, and I mean, as much as I am a big fan of Will and the player that he was, what he win 2 championships, I think. So
yep.
if we say Jokic or Giannis or Luka, if one of them end up with 2 or 3 championships, somebody's getting bumped out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. It's just hard. It's just hard to get those nine out. Like you have to make a legit argument. You have to be a generational player to bump one. You have to go on a historic run to bump somebody the likes of a Burr, a Steph, a Duncan, a Kobe out of that top 10. And it's going to take that, but Wilt,
Mm.
I mean, you can make a legit argument that Jokic is approaching that. I mean, you can make that argument. I mean, he's has a championship. If he chip up two more times,
Yeah.
three championship, three finals MVPs, and three records. Oh my goodness. How
Yeah.
do you keep him out of there?
Yeah.
And so again, it's going to be interesting to see during the course of this championship and after it. We're going to talk about it, of course, revisit this conversation, of course, if it happens. But it's going to be really interesting to see if he wins another championship where he ends up.